Hello, and welcome to another video. Today I am here for my November reading wrap up. Oh, my hair. For anyone in the Australian heat right now, obviously in December now, and it is hot. Curly haired girls, sympathize with you. I have straightened my hair twice already today, and look at it. I just can't. Today I thought I would do our November wrap up a bit differently than how I usually do my wrap ups. I'm still going to go through each book and give my rating, but going to compare my rating to the Goodreads rating. So I obviously track all of my reads with Goodreads. I leave a review and I do my star rating and I do my reading challenges on there. So I made a challenge on there to read 20 books for the year of 2024, because last year in 2023 I was very new back into reading and I didn't know how I was going to go, and I set myself a goal of a book a month, so 12, and I think I read 13 or something, so I did that plus more, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself and go and do 20 books for the year. I can confirm I'm on book number 42. So I've well and truly exceeded my expectations, but it just shows the rhythm and the groove and just how much I love reading now and how big of a part of my life it is. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think, because it's December and I'm gonna start setting goals and everything for next year, and I don't know how many books I'm gonna set my target for next year, but I'm definitely in my groove. But anyway, without further ado, I am just gonna get straight into this video because it's gonna be very chatty. This here is the stack of books that we are going to be talking about. These are the books for November plus one more. I had my very first ARC, advanced reader copy book, so that's when the author and publishing company sends out a e-version of the book for you to read online and review, send your rating and review through before the book's actually released. So that was really cool, my first ever experience of having an ARC. Believe it, when I got that email asking me to do it, I just felt like it was too good to be true, and I really loved the book. 9 books in total for the month of November. However, this is a first. I have never DNF'd a book, but this month I've had to DNF too. No, like, I'm buying these books, like, I'm gonna read them, I'm not gonna just not read it, waste of money, whatever, would kind of always be my mentality. And I just remember that I had a book previously, I don't know if it was the start of this year or end of last year, and I just absolutely hated it. Did not like it at all. It took me weeks to read because I was just like, it was turning me off, and I was just like, no, but I have to finish that, I have to finish it, because I was so determined not to DNF it. But now I'm just like, no, like, I have too many other good books on there that I just want to read. And like, if you look on my wants to read shelf on Goodreads, there's like 180 something books on there that I still want to get to. So it's just like, I'm not gonna force myself to read a book that I'm not enjoying. And I tend to have like a 100-page rule if I still am not hooked or I'm really struggling to get into it at that 100-page mark. That's my call now. So anyway, just a brief synopsis, bit of summary, bit of stats before we start the video. For the month of November, I had 1 5-star read, I had 4 4-star reads, 2 3-stars, and 2 DNFs. I am actually going to just go in order. My first book for the month was Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. This book follows Wells Whitaker, who is a famous golfer. It kind of goes down in a slope and almost just reminds me, like, it just gives me Happy Gilmore vibe. And then you've got Josephine Doyle, who was like, which this gave me the ick. She was like fangirl, followed him around everywhere, made signs, had a nickname for herself, and I just get an ick sometimes with nicknames, and I'm just like, oh, like, she called herself Wells Bell. I didn't really love this one. It was kind of like a meh, and I don't know, like, I love sports romances, but I just don't know if it's because I'm not really like into golf, whether I found that part of the book hard to connect to, I'm not sure. But this book was a 3-star rating from me. I feel like I'm kind of on par with Goodreads. Goodreads rated this at 3.85. The second book that I read was my ARC, which was Sugar Baby Mine by Kayla Rianne. That book was just spicy. I opened the book, the ebook, and the first thing that come up to me was a dictionary spelled D-I-C-K, dictionary. and it gave you highlights of the chapters numbers that were spicy. And I was just like, ooh, like I've never seen that in a book before. I found that, I was just like, okay, I know what I'm getting into here. So it was just spice on spice on spice. I did really like it. I loved the concept of sugar baby and sugar daddy. Like I'd never read a book like that before, and I just loved the dynamic. Obviously they come up with this agreement, be, you know, beneficial to each other. She needs the money and he wants someone to have, and you know, needs. And yeah, they actually end up falling for each other in the end. So spoiler alert. I rated that book a 4, and according to Goodreads it is a 4.10. The next book I read was Elsie Silver's Reckless. This is book 4 in the Chestnut Spring series, and honestly tied now with my favorite. This was my 5-star rating of the month. I'm just hardcore Chestnut Springs. I absolutely love them. Actually going back now that I have, well, spoiler alert, I'm in December and I've literally just finished the last book, Hopeless. Going back now, I think if I was to re-rate them, I did rate Flawless, which is the first book, a 5, but I'd probably push that one down to a 4 because I don't know if it's the whole pregnancy trope, like single dad kind of trope, which is what you get in Heartless, which is book number 2. The main female character's name is Winter, and she is actually Summer's sister from the first book, and you'll see all their dynamic and everything. But Winter is portrayed as like this cold, like ice queen, almost like literally how her name describes herself. She has an accidental pregnancy after a one-night stand with Theo, who is Rhett from the first book protege. He is a bull rider and he is up and coming in the ranks, and they have a one-night stand, and Winter obviously falls pregnant, believes that she has tried to contact Theo to let him know that she was pregnant. Things happen, he doesn't actually get the message, and she thinks he's fully joking when he moves in next door to her and sees that she's pregnant, and Winter thinks that he's joking. He doesn't know about the pregnancy and know that he's the father because he's obviously been away and traveling and doing bull riding competition. And then yeah, it's just kind of their neighbors and they're working through their dynamic of, you know, co-parenting and seeing whether or not they can be a family. And I just loved this book. I could not get enough. And yeah, like I said, I gave this a 5-star. Flawless initially was a 5-star, but I think if I was to re-rate that, I put it down to 4. Reckless and Heartless are like my 5-star reads, and I absolutely loved both of them. Goodreads rates this a 4.83, so I feel like my ratings have been quite on par. Be back, I gotta get my daughter. I feel like every time I sit down to do a book video, my daughter wakes up in the background, so she is behind me. She thinks I'm talking to her. The next book after that, which I'm gonna go straight to my DNFs, Emily Wilde. Oh, I just couldn't do it, guys. I really tried. This is a cozy fantasy, and I felt like I hated it. I don't know how else to put that, but I did. I really hated it. I just could not get into it. None of the language made sense to me. I didn't know how to pronounce half the words, so I decided to listen to some of the audiobook, and then I felt like I was watching a Bridgerton episode with the narrator on there, and I don't know, I just did not like it. I just found it boring. I found like nothing was happening. And I gave it the 100 pages and I just still did not change my mind. It was taking me way too long to read 100 pages and I did not enjoy it. And I'm really annoyed because I also bought the second book when I bought this one because they were on a special, and I thought, oh, everyone loves this book, I'm gonna get the second one while it's there as well. Just so shattered because like the covers are some of the prettiest covers that I've ever seen, but the books for me do not live up to the covers. Like, I'm so sad of what's inside these beautiful covers. I obviously DNF'd this one, and then I was like, if I don't like this one, I'm not going to try and read this one because I'm going to miss a massive chunk. So I'm just like, you know what, I'm going to DNF both of them. But according to Goodreads, this is rated a straight 4. This is rated a 4.3. So I'm just like, this is what I mean. I don't get it. Everyone rates these books so well, but I just could not get there. The next book I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez. I have only just last month read one of her books, which was Part of Your World, and I get the hype. I do. I really do. I think she is a great writer. I love her style of writing. She's just so easy to read. It's just so well flowing, all of her stories. This book follows Bree, who is in the first book the main character's best friend, and they work at the hospital together. She's going through a divorce. Her ex ex-husband cheated on her with one of her friends, and they're now in a relationship, and she's just kind of gathering her life. And her brother is also very, very sick and in need of a transplant, kidney donor. Takes her brother in, and because he's just almost like given up, and there is a new doctor that starts at the hospital. His name is Jacob. Suffers with extremely bad anxiety, which I loved about this book. The mental health representation in this book was just everything. I absolutely loved it. Bree and Jacob now work together. Jacob's mum went through all that sort of stuff with transplants as well, and Jacob has always wanted to donate a kidney in honor of his mum and wanted to help other people because people have helped his mum and kept his mum alive. Turns out he is a perfect match for Bree's brother, who has a rare blood type or a rare condition or something that find it really hard for him to get a kidney donor. Jacob and Bree do the whole fake dating thing. Jacob's ex broke up with him, got together with his younger brother. Bree pretends to be his girlfriend. Story obviously goes along, and I'm sure you can imagine what happens, but I just found this a really good read. Did rate this one a 4. I did really enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one, which was Part of Your World. According to Goodreads, this is a 4.31. The next book that I read was Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book in the Powerless trilogy. First book is Powerless, then you've got the novella in between, which is Powerful, and then you've also got Reckless. And then Fearless, the third book, is coming out in April next year, and I cannot wait. So this is obviously a fantasy. This follows Kai and Payton. Their world is just, I don't want to give away too much because it kind of, you'll have to follow along what happens in the first book to know what's happened in this one. But pretty much Kai is hunting down Payton. There's like this thing with like the elites and the ordinaries, and system from the elites and powerful people is that ordinaries need to be banished or killed, and Kai is the enforcer, so he goes out and does all that. This is just a story about Payton being on the run, Kai trying to hunt her down. Kit is Kai's older brother who has now become the king. Kai's first mission as enforcer under his new king is to hunt down Payton and bring her back to the castle. So yeah, that's what this book is about, and I'm just obsessed with this series. I cannot wait for the third book to come out because I feel like if you like Iron Flame, you will like this series. Like I said, I'm not too big on fantasy. I haven't read too much fantasy. I'm definitely a romance girly. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame were just the beginning of that journey for me, and then I went on to this Powerless trilogy and loving this so far, and I cannot wait for the third book to come out. And I've also got ACOTAR sitting there waiting for me. I think I'm actually going to do a whole month and not do a TBR for that month. I'm going to do a month of reading ACOTAR, see how I go. Powerless, the first book, was definitely a 5 for me. Like, absolutely loved it. I rated this book a 4. Goodreads rates this a 4.07. The next book I read was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is my first Lauren Asher book. This one follows Julian and Dahlia. Dahlia is our main female character. She must have been a theme this month. She is going through a relationship breakdown. She is an interior designer, and yeah, so they had a TV show together. She had to sign contracts and that sort of stuff for their relationship, like a prenup, but she had to do all these health assessments and everything when going into the relationship, and she's found out that she's carrying a certain gene that can cause things to happen to a baby if they were to have one. So yeah, he ended the relationship purely because of that. So she's having to deal with a lot of things by herself, moves back to her hometown where Julian still lives, Lake Wisteria. Julian is a billionaire. He is a developer, carpenter, businessman, all the above, and they actually start renovating a old historic house. Their mums are best friends. They have family dinners every Sunday. They have since they were kids. Parents have always tried to get Dahlia and Julian together, the mums. They've just been like enemies, childhood enemies, and still as adults they still fight as if they're enemies, but you can see the more time that they spend together, their true feelings kind of unravel. I feel like this is a big chunk of this book. This was 500 and something pages, 588, but then it had like 2 bonus epilogues after that as well, so it would have been like 600 pages roughly. I just feel like it could have been condensed a lot. Like, we just didn't need that many pages. That was my only thing going against this book. I did really like it. One thing I actually didn't like, they do a lot of Spanish words in there, and let me find an example here. Down the bottom, they'll have the word in italics on the page, and then that word will be down the bottom to translate it for you, but once it's been mentioned once, they don't mention it again. And I found that really hard because they keep talking that language all throughout the book, like a sentence or a word every now and then. But I found myself like having to go back and try and figure out what that word was. That's one thing I didn't really like. That's the first book I've ever kind of had that I've had to do that with as well. But I gave Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher a 4 stars. According to Goodreads, it's a 4.04. My last book that I read for November was Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. My first Mia Sheridan book. This book is just hyped everywhere. I just see so many people just say so many good things about this. Goodreads has this rated 4.20, so I feel like that's a really good rating, but I don't get it. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't get it. I do not get the hype. I found a lot of this like so cringeworthy. There's a lot of parts that gave me the ick. I just felt like it was very obsessive. I think obsession and possession are different things. This book follows Archer and Bree. He is mute. He's lost his voice from, I'm not going to say what in case you haven't read it. These things happened when he was a child. He was abandoned by himself for a very long time. His mum and dad were killed and he actually lost his voice. Lots of people around the town think he's like this weirdo, this damaged kid, and it's not until Bree comes along and she meets him that she changes her perception of him and also the community's perception, because Bree's father, who he was also killed, it's like they kind of like trauma bond a bit. Yeah, Bree's dad was also killed. He was deaf and their way of communicating was sign language. Everyone in the town just thinks, oh, Archer's deaf and he can't talk. Thing is, he can actually hear everything. He just has no voice. He just welcomes herself into his house all the time, like in his yard. You can tell he's really like cautious. He's been by himself for a very, very long time, and he was 7 years old when his parents died, and he didn't really have anyone since then or any interaction. Had to teach himself about everything. That part was really sad. That did get me a little bit, but Bree just babied him so much. Felt like the sex scenes in there were a bit awkward. That's fine. He's never experienced sex with someone and he's had to teach himself. And there's a few other details that I'm obviously going to leave out because I don't want to tell you about the whole book and ruin the book. That's kind of the dynamic as they work through this friendship, which turns into a relationship. See, they have a break and Archer goes away for a while and comes back after months, and Bree's just like pining for him and just miserable, and he's just so possessive over her. Just like, I get it's all trauma, I do, but I just felt like this was like very possessive, very controlling, there's just a lot of things in here that just, and I hate to say it, gave me the ick. I rated this a 3 because I think the storyline was good, but the way that it was written, I just don't know. I feel like it could have been so much better. Goodreads rates this a 4.20. A lot of books read this month again. I feel like 7 is my TBR prompt jar number. In the past, I've done 6 books and then I'm like, I read an extra 1 or 2, but I feel like 8 just seems a bit scary and a bit of a stretch. I think 7's a good number. I thought I would do that a little bit differently this month because I am obviously only one person, and I know that there are a lot of people who read the books that I recommend. I thought this would be a good way of kind of comparing my thoughts on the book compared to what the reading community as a whole thinks about the same book. So yeah, that is my November wrap up. Currently the 5th of December today, and I have already read 2 books. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. I've been talking for far too long. I'm so happy that my daughter's just chilling in the background on the floor playing with her toys and not making any noise this video, because usually when I do my TBR videos she's always awake and she's crying in the background. So we made it. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will get this video up very soon. I am editing currently a weekly vlog that I want to get up, but this one's going to take priority because I feel like I'm going to edit this one and then I'm going to have to do my TBR for January. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye.